You've met jack-o'-lantern. Let me introduce you to Horace. This is a carving technique I developed 25 years ago, and today I'd like to share it with you. I'm Chef Geno Moglovkin, and this is Culinary Carving. Let's start with the pumpkin. The selection of the pumpkin is very important. You want a pumpkin that is dense in meat. The most ideal way of selecting this pumpkin is literally its weight. It should weigh heavy compared to other pumpkins of its size. This is the most important way to select your pumpkin. The shape of the pumpkin is not necessarily relevant, but you do a better job with a long, tall pumpkin if you're making a face. The tools that you're going to be using, of course, are important. A common household French knife or chef's knife is adequate. This is for peeling the skin off of the pumpkin without getting too much of the meat. Any knife will do. Serrated is a little easier, and it really matters not. Now, the most important tool is your paring knife. This is the tool that does most of the work. And it's very important to get a sharp, flat-surfaced paring knife, flat edge with a point. Now, you can use a regular paring knife, but this point and the flat edge is very important. And the last thing that you need is a simple package of food colors. Just the 4 basic colors, and you'll learn that the color will blend in a little water, and you apply it with a rag or Kleenex. You can use a brush if you so desire. White paint is appropriate for the teeth and eyes, but simple food color is our main coloring, and it does a marvelous job. Now, you'll start the procedure with a carving of a leaf. I'm going to show you how to carve a leaf, and I'm also going to show you how to carve away from the pumpkin so that you have the contrast. Now, the leaf is very simple. It's very nice when you make a leaf to find a groove in the pumpkin, and by so doing, use that as the center of your pumpkin, of your leaf. And you draw a line on either side. There we go. Right down. Now we find the center that we left the ridge in, and just with the back of the knife, make an indentation. And then simply, with the back of the knife again, make the ribs of the leaf. There we go. And then on the other side, try to make it a little bit different. Nature makes things uneven, and you want to make it look as natural as you can. Now, you can make all types of leaves and other things, and it doesn't have to be leaves. Anything natural is fine. Now, we take our knife. By the way, this cut should be about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch deep, not any more. And then you merely cut till you meet it. And off it comes. And under that pumpkin shell, we have a nice leaf. And we bring this out. This isn't a real handy thing for children to do, but they can do it if they're supervised properly. Okay, now there's a nice leaf. With this, you can take your yellow or your green color and just rub a little green over it, and it'll stand out from the orange. Now, when making a pumpkin, you could literally make a circle. Any given shape. You don't need a leaf. You don't need all of that. All you really need is a indentation, like I say, about 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. And you whip it out just up to it. Very simple. And off they come. Then, with your large knife, you will be taking the bulk of it off. Always remembering to try to leave as much meat as you possibly can. There. Now, in testing, if you need to have a good idea of what exactly you have to work with, take the back side of your pumpkin and either use an apple core or the traditional triangle. And you pull the core out. There is what you have to work with. You examine that in advance and you at least have a good indication of just how much meat that you do have to work with. Now, we'll just pop that back in and we'll move our working model up. Now, I've taken the liberty of previously shaving all of the skin off, and I made a nice assortment of leaves on the top. And we'll start by cutting in the eyes. Try to always cut in the eyes. Now, we cut the eyes on an angle always. The nose on an angle, the eyes on an angle, and the lips on an angle. And this is primarily because the slope of the facial features are not straight lines. They're all angles. And we can just show you what we mean real fast. When we take that off, you can see that that isn't a straight line. It's starting to protrude downward. Now we'll do the other side. Probably the most important thing you want to remember when carving these pumpkins is whenever you do something on one side, you duplicate it on the other immediately, or else you lose track. You lose your coordinates. And it's very difficult. A right-handed person can do the right hand very well, but the other side is like working backwards. So you have to give that a lot of time. And here's my version of working it backwards. Trying to duplicate that same angle. And that's what you'll find is the most difficult thing. And then we slice this piece off. And this leads us into the nose. Now, before we start with the nose, we have to realize that the nose is going to be coming down, and we have only this much meat to work with on a nose. So what we'll start doing is tapering the nose at the bridge. Just like so. Let it fly, don't worry about it. The tip of your nose is going to be in this vicinity. So now we start on our downward slope. Now you notice this angle. It's an angle all the way in there. Constantly have to keep in mind the angle, because if you don't, you'll end up with a straight face, a straight nose, straight everything, and that's not good. Now we're angling on the opposite side. When you do it, you can take a little more patience, and of course, it's always good to be able to stop the tape and back it up and see how to do it, what you might have missed. There we go. Okay, now, very simple. Making sure not to penetrate into the nose, but going just up to it, we take it away. There it is. There's that nose. Always remembering whatever you do on one side, try to equalize on the other. Even it off. There we go. Now we'll work a little bit more on the nose. Now the nose, as you can see, it looks fairly decent this way, but when you look this way, there isn't much there. You have a lot of work to do to make it appear to be a nose. And just keep slowly taking from one side then the other. You don't do it in large amounts, or you could lose track and end up right in the middle of the pumpkin, where you don't want to be. Next thing you want to do is start working toward the mouth. Now, in doing so, what we're going to do is make the ends of the mouth, which you do this way. From this point in the pumpkin's nose, right here, you start on a tremendous angle. You see the angle that we're talking. It's a tremendous angle. And then you meet it in a wedge. Now there's the wedge. What I'm doing here is exacerbating the issue. It is, when I do it normally, it isn't quite this pronounced. There we go. Now it's getting to look a little facial, but it's rough. Now, the mouth is rounded. Feel your own mouth. It's rounded, and you have to start tending toward rounding this creature's mouth. And it's a little difficult because he has such a pie face. He's a pie shape. Just let it fly. Someone will clean it up. Now we start taking some edges off. There we go. Start working a nose in. Start working some eyes in. Now the eyes, they may look good, but they're still too far out. We need to really get way in because of the side view. You have too much meat here, so we have to eliminate an awful lot before we're through. You do it on one side, you do it on the other. Now also, in remembering when you make an eye, the side of your head, the edge of it is the edge of your eye. So you have to taper your pumpkin at that point in order to assume any realism. There we are. Now we're going to finish the eyes. Now, in order to do an eye properly, there are many different variations, it really would make a lot of sense for you to get yourself some magazines, some pictures, and especially of a model or a man, whatever you're planning on doing, and get several different versions of what eye you might be thinking about. Especially in a picture, you can't get a good left eye as well as a right eye on a person. So get pictures together, and it will definitely help you. But this is how we do it. We round the eye on the inside. And there again, we're going to go back and forth. But this has got to be round. It's got to be round here and round here. Now we'll do it on the opposite eye. Always keeping in mind the thickness of this pumpkin. At this point, right in here and right in here, those are your crucial points. That is where the pumpkin is the deepest cut, and you have to be very careful not to protrude into the center of the pumpkin. Now, you can do it and get away with it, but your pumpkin will tend to spoil in that area first. Now let's finish our rounding. As well as rounding, we still want to taper the back because we want to get that ultimate flat side. There we go. Okay, now we have this rounded eye, but it's straight up and straight down. Now the next thing we want to do is put an eyelid in. Now it's real simple. You use a very light touch and you make a mark. Any of these things you can easily make the mark for yourself. You notice I don't need to, but anytime you're starting with the nose, the eyes, you can just make a little mark and gauge it for yourself. Okay, now we meet that little line with a very light touch. You see how tender? That's just is a little thicker than skin. Okay, then we'll bring it under. Now we have that line. Now that line we bring down. We take that little bit out. Don't want to come. There she is. Now it's getting to be an eye. From this point on, it's just a matter of continually rounding the eye until you get it where you want it. But remember, back to the other side before you lose track. Now, you have to duplicate that side with this side. You cut that little thin amount, just a little thin amount. Have patience, go slow. Okay, now we must round this eye. You'll find that the most difficult part of these eyes is to get them looking the same, looking like they belong to each other, because it is a very hard thing to duplicate. Now, we got this eye appears to be too far down, so we almost have to adjust this eye to look more like it. And that's what you're going to have to always do, is improvise. Okay, but that is a simple way of making the eye. Very realistic. There we go. We'll leave that for now and do a little more nose. We have to take an awful lot off of the nose yet. The nose there again is a integral part of this project. You have to remember that the nose will probably not be a realistic nose, but it is more of a flat face from the front nose. So we have to concentrate on the looks of the nose from the front and then just improvise on the sides. But we want to take all the sharp edges off. And noses could be, of course, it could actually be rounded. It could be a Greek nose. It could be a Indian nose. All types of noses. The easy part of the nose is this. The hard part is this. This is the part that you have to be very careful with. Now we're going to round all of these edges off, and then on this particular nose, we make the nostrils doing one forward and one backwards, but just going back and forth till you find that you've pretty well equaled off. Okay? Now we still have to thin it down. It's still way too thick. You thin it down on one side, thin it down on the other. Like so. Okay? Now, back to the eye a little bit. You'll find that you're gonna go back and forth, because as you take something off, it opens up new vistas for the other part of the sculpture. Now this bird looks like he needs bags under his eyes. So we're just going to make him some bags. And remember again, we need the angle, especially for bags. We don't want straight lines under there. We want this to be slopes. Okay? We put a little slit under his eye, and then on another angle, bring it back up. There he is. And the same thing here. On the angle, very often when you're doing fine work, it, it helps an awful lot if you saw, if you just make sharp jerks. Okay, now on this angle, we're bringing another angle in. And there's a couple bags under his eyes. Okay, now we'll start working on his mouth. Now, I'm going to show you how to make teeth. This is not very difficult. We want a nice smile, so we want to make this mouth rounded, and we're just going to make a nice little smile right across his face. Then we're going to bring that lip right out by cutting under it, but not undercutting it. Okay. And then make curvature of his lip. Okay, they basically have a lip there. He's kind of got a smirk. Okay, so that means we have to concentrate on this being closed and this kind of being open, because that's the way I just dealt the hand. So now we're going to take a little out of here. This is really simple. It just takes a little time and practice. And remember now that the teeth are not just sitting on the outside of these lips, they're within. They're going round within. So you just take your time and slowly work yourself around into regular bridge work, just going round and round. And on this side, just make the cuts that you need, no more, no less. And out she comes. There's getting to be a smile. And we'll round these lips off on the bottom. There we go. Looking better already. Round them off. And now make an angle for the lip, the bottom lip. It has to be a protruding lip. Remember to stop the action and go back so you know exactly what you're doing. There we go. Okay, now we're going to get back to those teeth. But that's what he is so far. Now, look how simple teeth are. Well, here, before we get too simple, let's make sure we got it all cleaned out. Now we actually have enough room in this mouth to make two sets. One upper, one lower. Now we just slice a little angle right through the bottom part of the mouth. You just need a little trace of the bottom bridge. And we're just going to open that up a little bit. Okay. But we need a dividing line. We just need something to separate the uppers from the lower. Now, this is how simple it is. You make a very long, thin V. Angles, angles. Make a little V. There's your bridge, your beginning of your bridge there. And then on this side, on this angle, remember the angles, we want a nice rounded tooth. Now see, we're bringing this one back this way. One this way, one this way. And you don't have to do that much trimming that way. Now on this side, it's this side, and then this side. But basically, you're making a little V up there. And that makes your teeth look natural. Little trim. Okay. Now the next tooth. On the angle, on another angle. At this point, it does get a little close in. So you have to put it in, and then you're going to just have to chisel it out like that. On this side, we need a little more out of there. Okay, and we'll just take that out. Now when we get through with this, a little white paint makes these teeth really gleam. Now, in order to make the teeth natural, we don't want a line directly under the top one. So we just offset it slightly, or else it'll look like the line just went through altogether. And now these bottom teeth cannot be as big as the top teeth. They've got to be a little smaller. Just keep it in mind. Use that magazine for reference. Any teeth that you want, any smile. It's very simple. There we go. We can sell toothpaste with this thing. Now we're going to thin out these lips. They're a little overblown here, and we want to just bring them back into normal. And back here, we're way off base here. We want to take a chunk off of there. How's that coming? You see it? Take a good look. Okay. Now we also, on a side profile, we're noticing that this is too pronounced, and we have to slim his upper lip down. Just always do a little at a time. It's hard to put this back if you run it off where you shouldn't have. So just do what you have to. Better to do a little too little and then do it twice. But again, I warn you, this spot, that is where you have to be very careful, because that is the thinnest part, always. It doesn't matter in the mouth. I mean, I could literally go right through it, and it doesn't matter. But here's where it matters. Okay. Now, we want to continue this rounded mouth that I was talking about. Round it all off. Remember, this is a round pumpkin, but we're basically making it egg-shaped to some degree. We want to sort of kick back these cheeks. Well, now I think we better make these cheeks a little more sensible, and we'll put some dimples in. We'll just whack them right off. There we go. And then start to taper his mouth. He'll be more and more realistic now. We'll start to really get into making this dude happy. Now, what we need here is a little cleft in the nose, under the nose, make it realistic. clean out his nose a little more. There we go. We'll start to shape these eyes to where we want them. There we go. Now, we've got bags under his eyes. It's just a matter of following through on some of these lines. And if you're making something that you want scary, it's very easy to make any kind of lines. Just, here again, following my instructions as to the tapering, going this way, going that way. We're going to work with his forehead now. Now, as you can see, he's got a big chunk there that doesn't belong. So we'll just start angling that off. Make it taper right down, okay? Okay, now we need a frown. Very simple, 2 angles. Not very deep, just pronounced. And as it tends to dry, it will be more highlighted. The pumpkin itself can have a shelf life from anywhere from 3 days to a week and a half. Not too much more than that. It's always a good idea to keep it in a cool place whenever you're not using it. Outside generally is good if it's cool out. Refrigerated at night. Now we need some lines in his eyes, coming out of his eyes. It's very effective, very effective. And one going this way. As he's smiling, it's going to be a smile line. We're coming to a finale. We'll end up with the laugh lines here. We're going to dress up his lower lip here. And this is what we have to do. We have to undercut the lip. This will give the lower lip some identity. Just don't make the mistake of doing it too much. It's just a very, very vague outline. There we go. Now the top lip, we just want to get a final shape on it. There we go. And we'll just constantly go back and repair, patch, make it look good. It's getting good now. Now, I think we're just about to the point, without getting real picky, we can start to show you how to color him. There we go. Take a good look now. This is kind of a rough draft, but that's what she's going to look like. Could also put a clip in his chin. Okay, now we're going to bring forth our colors. Now I've taken the liberty of putting the color in a little bit of water so that we have not all that a bright a color, just a nice pastel. And we're going to start with the yellow. Now the yellow has got probably 5 parts water to 1 part of the yellow, as we don't want to just make it a truly yellow face. We just want a nice tint. Now the tint also helps to preserve it. A good thing to remember is that the pumpkin will immediately begin the process of spoiling or rotting. And what you want to do is try to avoid the rotting process by either spraying it with Lysol, or you could help by coating it with a little oil. There's a lot of things you could do. Nothing is for sure. It's going to, over a period of time, diminish. And in some cases, when it starts to die, it actually takes on a character of its own, which looks good. Sometimes it doesn't. Now, we're just giving it a light coat of yellow. That's more of an undercoat. You just watch the eyes. You just do the lids, not too much on the eyes. And we're gonna use a little white paint on those eyes. Okay. Now we're going to take our red, which is also diluted, and we're going to just highlight the areas that need it. The high cheekbones, the nose, the lips, and a little bit on the forehead, just to make it look like he was out in the sun a while. There we go. But don't go wild with the color. So what I'll do now is just go over the entire thing with a little more yellow to blend it. Give it a nice blended look. So I'll put it back in the yellow. It tends to make it more natural looking. There we go. Now, I'll just take the back of it and just wipe off the excess. There we go. Now we're thinking about giving him a name or something. I've got a little latex paint that I keep in a bottle with a little brush attached. It's very convenient. And we'll just give you a brief outline of what can be done with a little white paint. It just highlights the parts that need it. Absolutely fantastic for the teeth. There we go. Now, what else I do is use a little dark green just to coat and give a contrast color to these leaves. And it really isn't enough to matter, but it just fills in the ridges and it separates them from the rest of the pumpkin. Now, what I normally do in the eye is wait till the pumpkin dries and then put a dot of another color in the eye. But right now, this is what we've got. And that should be fairly easy to duplicate. And we're gonna let you look at this for a while. I think this looks like a Herbie to me. Well, we're gonna name him Herbie. And while you're studying Herbie, I'm gonna get together some vegetables and we're gonna show you some unique ways of carving some vegetables. Now that you've visited us with a pumpkin, we're going to show you a whole different type of vegetable carving. This will probably come in handy for any little parties that you're having or just general show-offs to the neighbors. Aren't you glad you're just not watching some cartoon now? This is going to be so interesting. We're going to start with a apple. We're going to do something like this. Now we have a real nice apple, and this is terribly simple to do. Get yourself a big apple. Got a little piece off the bottom so it doesn't go anywhere. Take a bite out of it. Make sure it's good. Okay. Make a small wedge, but be very careful not to go any further than you have to. And then on this very pronounced and definite angle, go again. And after every time, just go back through it again. Make sure that you've got it to move. And another. That's fine. And another. Making very certain that you're not crossing into the last layer. And that is all there is to it. Okay, now we just pull this one forward, pull this one forward, pull this one forward, and pull this one forward. And there you have a beautiful apple. Very good for presentation with fowl or most anything. And we'll just set this on the side. And then we're going to go to making the chrysanthemum. You take an onion, you peel it very finely, not too much, just whatever you can get off. And get yourself, you can use a large knife, but I'll show you, the large knife is easy for me, but I'll show you on a small knife. And I'll go very slowly. But basically, without going too far in, just sort of a half circle, but cut that first and then again, and again. Now, if you notice, we're leaving quite a little bit on the bottom, and leave the root, because that holds it together. And keep your hand on the table, your knuckle, and it'll guide you. You can make these very fine or coarser. Just make sure you're cutting all of the top and not going too far into the bottom. So what you're actually doing is leaving a small oval ball right in the center. And this is the tightest part, this last one. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this, and I have a little yellow food color in a paper plate, and I'm just going to roll it around. This can be immersed in a color, but we're just going to vaguely immerse it. Doesn't take much. And then we're going to open those petals just ever so slightly, a little at a time. If you really want these open considerably, put them in water first before you do it. Let it soak up about an hour in water, and you could actually make them bend. Then as they get a little bit loose, you open them further and further. If you put this in a nice bright red food dye, it's spectacular. As you can see, it makes a very, very nice centerpiece. And we'll just dip it again and put it aside. Okay. Next thing I want to show you, we're going to make a rose. Now this is a sweet potato. This could be made with a turnip, or this could be made with a potato. And either way, this happens to be a peeled sweet potato. You peel your potato and at least shape it similar to an egg. And then start at the top and make a leaf. Oop, that one's no good. Okay, we'll just start over. Make one leaf and then cut a little off. Shape it, bring it back to the egg shape, and then make another leaf. this time bending, making a half round bend to it. After each leaf, retrim. Bring it back to egg shape. And then every time you make a leaf, you indent it into the other leaf, or petal, actually. And then you bring that all out of there, cleaning it up as you go. And again, by this time you're starting to give it some real nice shape. You're seeing a little results. Okay, now we haven't too much there, so we'll clean it up and make one solid one across. Now I'm twisting as I go so that it cuts over. Very careful at this point. Now inside you have another egg to deal with, and we have to just trim that nicely and then start again. Find the inside of a leaf and trim it. And then go again, the inside of that leaf. Always trimming, getting it egg shape. And we'll go again. Now you can see what we're doing as we're starting to go downward. We're starting to cover, and it's basically going to open up like a real blossom. Just takes a little patience. There we go. Now we continue that egg shape, that reasonable looking egg shape. It doesn't have to really be smooth. And we're gonna wind her up about here. With one more petal. As soon as we know that the petal won't open. But there it is. This is a sweet potato. Now just to show you, this is the turnip, and the turnip is easier to work with because it isn't as apt to break. Okay. Is that not beautiful? Now, we'll just take a little red food dye, and without too much ceremony, we'll just color it. Roll it around in a little yellow. You might want to snip off a little more at the bottom, in fact even more on an angle so that it shows up nicely. Now the rutabaga rose will make a wonderful complement to almost any kind of meal. Now a nice accompaniment to the rose would be leaves. And what's better than a potato rose leaf? We just take a long potato and we slice the end off and make very thin, long slices. Very simple. Okay. Take each leaf, potential leaf, and we're going to just shape it into a leaf. There we are. Another. See? Nothing to it. Maybe 3. Any way you like your leaves, you just help yourself. Now we take the back of our knife and we make that line down the middle. Start on one end. You almost don't have to look. Just keep making the marks where they belong, and don't worry about seeing them yet because they will show up when we're through. Okay. If you have any problems with a leaf, go outside and get one and take a look at it. No better way to do it. And there she is. Now this is the way it looks before we color it. After it's colored, it picks up all of the veins in the leaf and looks very realistic. Now we're going to take our plate with a little bit of yellow in it and put a little drop of our green in it, and within seconds we have a beautiful leaf. And we'll put the other one in. You could soak it all the way. You could soak it overnight if you like, but it ain't getting any better than that. And we'll put the last one in. And there we have it. And we'll just set that here and set our flower next to it. And we'll discard that. Okay, the last thing I want to show you, I'm going to show you a very unique way of decorating a mushroom out of a potato. Now these actually could be cooked and served. You can have small potatoes and serve 3 or 4 steamed mushroom potatoes. And I'll show you how simple it is. It's almost criminal. Cut the bottom off. Pick a spot in the potato and come all the way full circle. Not going too far in though. Just the very outer edges. And just keep going around a little bit so you make sure that you're pretty even. Then we start the spiral. Knowing full well that you don't go too much past this area. And when you're through, you have the beginning of a very nice mushroom. But that's just the beginning. Now you literally can make any type of mushroom that you want. You can have if you have the right potato, you can make morel. If you have the right potato, you can make a white mushroom. Or you could just make something unique to your family. That was real hard, wasn't it? Here, we'll have to give it a little more body. There's your mushroom. Before leaving you, I do want to bring it to your attention that this little centerpiece that we had here is a Hubbard squash that's just been hollowed out somewhat and the vegetables put in. Now, around them, you see these nice bright balls. That is made with just a simple melon ball cutter. And it's one of the simplest things to do. Just firmly pull out the little melon ball and put it back in. And you can duplicate this on watermelons, on muskmelons, on just virtually any vegetable that you want for a decoration. And it's very apropos. There's nothing to it. Most families probably have 2 or 3 of these hanging around, so it shouldn't be any problem, or you could pick them up at the grocery store. And that will do it for this session, and I hope you got a lot out of it. It's been a lot of fun doing it, and I want to put your attention to these friends that I made, and I'd like to say goodbye with you looking at Lloyd here. Bye.